everyone, greetings from Chicago and welcome to the Women in Design video series by Chelsie. On each video, we spotlight talented and inspired women in design community from print to digital, illustrator to animator, and others in between. I'm Ari Krzyzak, co-founder and chief creative officer here at Chykalophia, a branding consultancy helping women-led businesses build proper brand foundation, building strong communities, and lasting relationships. Today, we have Chelsie Tamms, lettering artist and graphic designer at Lettering Works. And I'm just super excited to finally get a chance to chat with Chelsie because we've been working through our schedules and shifting things around. And thank you so much, Chelsie, for being so patient with me. And I'm so excited to bring her in here and sharing some of her insights about passion projects. So we'll talk all about passion projects, what it is, why do you need it, and how is it actually different than side hustle? So we'll talk in depth about that. But before we get into the details on those, Chelsie Tamms is a lettering artist, designer, and creative entrepreneur from the Chicagoland area. She graduated from Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, where she started her custom design company, Lettering Works. Upon graduating in 2016, Chelsie has published a self-published book, Just My Type of Lettering, and 100 Days of Peoria. She recently relocated to the city of Chicago. Welcome, Chelsie. Welcome and enjoying Chicago. And how about we give her a very warm welcome and really ask her questions that I've been so meaning to ask. So Chelsie, first of all, thank you for agreeing to just chatting with me and interviewing in this series. And how about we actually get started in terms of highlighting your previous experience, your career. Can you share with us a little bit more what happened in the past of your career so that we can get a little bit of your background and how you decided to embrace entrepreneurship as an artist?
Sure. So I started entrepreneurship kind of accidentally. I knew I was interested in graphic design and advertising and marketing. So at Bradley, I studied graphic design, marketing, and Spanish, and really embraced the entrepreneurship program towards the end of my career there, and met a lot of different people that had their own businesses, were interested in teaching others about how to have a business, and started participating in different entrepreneurship competitions. And from there, I ended up winning $10,000 to start my own business. So that made the decision to stay in Peoria, to work on starting my own design company, and to really just embrace trying different things. Starting out, as everyone who's started their own business or worked in design can imagine, starting out, you have to figure out what you're interested in, what's exciting to you, and what you want to make your portfolio all about. So I got into passion projects really early on as a way of getting my name out there, but also figuring out what I wanted to do with my skill set. So that was kind of the beginning of everything, and then really just embracing entrepreneurship because I had the opportunity to try it right out of college, being able to jump into starting my own business and really having less of a sense or a fear of failing, because I did have some startup funding to try some ideas out and just have fun with it and see where I could take things.
First of all, that is amazing to have some funding and fuel your passion project and roll it into your own business is incredibly amazing. I mean, how many people can actually say that they won a competition for entrepreneurship and then get the funding to actually, figure out if this passion project is going to be an actual business, right? So first of all, Chelsie, congrats on that one. But it really is though, what would you do differently if you can, with that 10 grand? What would you do differently with your passion project, if there's any?
I think really how I approached it was trying to figure out, if I had $10,000, what would I love to do? And that's kind of how I approached it. So I don't think I would change anything differently or do it differently, because I really had the mindset of, how can I create a couple different projects that are really exciting to me? Maybe I don't have the clients yet. Maybe I don't really know how they're going to play out, but I'm going to allow myself time to create this work and use this funding as a way to make it happen, even if all the pieces aren't in place yet. So I think, that being said, really just following what I was interested in, and then having this mindset of, if I make this as ideal as I can imagine it and it doesn't work out, I don't really have to feel bad about it. I tried, and I feel good about trying these things and really trying the fun part instead of approaching it in a very systematic or business way of trying to structure everything right up front. I kind of just went with where my heart was pulling me and what I was excited about doing, and then had that money not as something that I spent immediately, but something that I used to allow me to balance what was coming in with what I really wanted to kind of put out there proactively.
Yeah, and I think when you actually get like a funding for fueling your passion project, you also become a little bit more strategic in terms of like, what am I going to do now with this 10K, right? Because I would imagine that you have like a very specific strategy in terms of like where some of these money is going to go, and then how are you going to like approach your first 6 months, now you're like your first year and things like that. Can you share with us how was that first year of building your passion project looks like with the 10K that you got?
Yeah, so most of the money that I had, I allocated to different supplies that I knew I needed. So I had a computer already and I used that for a while, but one of the first things I knew I needed was a new computer, or a computer if mine broke. So that was a huge chunk of that $10,000. About a third of it was kind of set aside for that. I ended up getting an iPad as well. So I really just focused a lot of that on getting the tools that I needed to make sure I could continue my business without fear of investing too much money up front and not being able to pay it off. So that was the first chunk of it. The next was, I really wanted the passion projects the first one that I ever did was back in 2014. And that was before I even had an idea to start my own business. But I spent 30 days of the summer doing 30 different card illustration designs. So that's kind of how I got into entrepreneurship in general. The first and only entrepreneurship class I took in college was a prep class for the competition. And we had to go in the first day with an idea or a pitch of what we wanted to do. And I honestly didn't really know what a pitch was going into that, but I had a handful of cards that I had made that came out of this first passion project. And I went up in front of the small class and said that I didn't really know exactly what I was doing, but I knew I had these cards and I wanted to sell them somehow or build something around that. So that's kind of how everything started, was just that little passion project growing. So from that experience and learning that people were actually really impressed that I had a minimum viable product day one into coming into entrepreneurship, they were surprised how far along I was. And I was as well, seeing that I expected I was way behind. I didn't really understand what all these things were, but I had a lot of the physical products and things that I wanted to potentially sell, all because of the passion projects that I worked on my own time and just exploring my interests. So those really fueled and led an interest in spending some of that money on investing in those ideas too, and not necessarily just advertising or putting my name out there, but really sitting down and saying, how can I create a project? And then maybe a barrier to making a card line is having money to buy a new printer and to print them and to package them and go to stores. So that's how I spent a lot of the money. One of the biggest things that I started after becoming an actual business was starting designing stickers. And that's been, and I would say it's been a little bit of a side hustle in terms of my business, because it's not a huge part of what I do. Most of what I do is branding and custom graphics and custom design and lettering work. But I also really enjoy making products and stickers and all those things. So that initial money really helped me still do those things, even though they're not the biggest part of my business today.
Gotcha. That's super cool that you also touch on the side hustle, which we also gonna get into that real soon. Now, when we talked last time, Chelsea, you shared with me how having a passion project can be really important for our career as a creative and then as a woman in design. But why is that? Can you share with us what your thoughts are around how important passion project could be?
Sure. So for me, passion projects have really driven my career and let people know exactly what I'm interested in doing, and really had people better hire me for what I enjoy. So instead of saying that I'm a graphic designer or lettering artist and then letting people determine what that title means to them and hire me based on that, they really see my work first, and then they hire me, if they do hire me, because of my work, which every creative, I feel like, always dreams of that moment where you're getting hired and your client says, I completely trust you, whatever you want to do with this. And then not only do they say that, but they actually follow through with it. And the first draft you show them, they say is essentially perfect. And there aren't really any edits unless there's some little details that were missed from the first version. So for me, that's really the goal with design and owning my own business, being able to find the right people that truly trust me, truly want what I'm offering and what's different from other people. So passion projects have really allowed me to show that and
Yeah.
not just tell people, here's what I'd like to do. And then maybe they don't have the same vision of what I explained, but they can see exactly what I've done before and what I'm excited about and what I haven't gotten paid to do in the past, but I'm really interested in getting paid to do in the future. And
Yeah.
then I've gotten hired for that. So that's some of the most memorable moments in my business have been when people have come to me and pointed to something I've already done that I did just on my own and said, we want this in a much larger scale and setting for our company or organization, and being able to just feel trusted because of the work that I'm putting out.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, were you saying something?
I was just going to say, in addition to that, it's a great way to feel really creative because nobody's
Yeah.
telling you how to do your job or how the design needs to look or whatever else. You get to be self-guided. And there's tons of resources out there to figure out how to make your own passion project or what you can get excited about, or there's prompts, but you have a lot more control over what you're putting out versus feeling like, I got this one project that isn't really exciting to me, but now people can
Yeah.
see I can do it really well, so I get hired for that instead. So for me, it's just a way of staying proactive and telling people, here's what I want to do and continue doing, rather than having a client say, here's what you should be doing because you have the skill set for it.
Yeah, and I like it because from what you've been sharing, from what I gather, actually, the way you're utilizing Passion Project, it really is like a platform for you to kind of set yourself apart from others, right? Because you're taking a very your own initiative to be different than the others. You actually create something that you're really passionate about and aligning that with other people or like your audience who are looking for those particular project, that particular style, that particular design. And then when they find you, they already have this image in their minds like, this is the perfect designer or the perfect artist for this X, Y, and Z project, right? So that's how I think the takeaway that I hear from what you're saying, does that align with what you're trying to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. And so I think when it comes to like the passion project too, when I see other designers are taking their own proactive efforts to be different than others, it makes it really easy for me to separate them from other designer as well, right? Whenever they like either try to apply for a specific position with us, or like when I need to find specific designer, illustrator, or anybody else in the creative industry, having that platform for them to be different will really catch my eye, or anyone that they really want to work with, because at the end of the day, you want to collaborate with the right type of people and the right type of client who really appreciate your work and being professional about it, and you know exactly how to deliver that in your own style, in your own way of creating the design or the creative efforts. So now going into your other things that I really love for you to share is that, how do you feel about a fashion project versus a side hustle? Because I feel like in a sense it's similar, but it's also different. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I really would define a passion project as something that you're setting aside to create more as a portfolio piece or as an exercise to show off your skill set. So it's not necessarily something that will generate a lot of revenue. And I think the other thing with passion projects is if you go into it hoping that it's going to make you a lot of money, it's not really driven by passion. It's driven by a desire to make money. And I think where the side hustle part of it comes in is you want to take your passion and turn it into a business, and you have to work really hard, whether it's on the side of your 9-to-5 job, or even if you're freelancing, maybe it's a smaller thing that you want to get bigger, and you have to work really hard at developing that and fine-tuning your passion to make it profitable. So I think that's where I kind of see a divide between the two, in at least how I've approached it. And starting passion projects just truly are based in, I'm really passionate about this idea, excited about it, I want to try it, and it doesn't really matter if it doesn't stick, but it will show my skill set. And if it's really rooted in that, I think it has potential to grow, but not necessarily reflective of my goal to make money from it or turn it into its own business. It's really just its own thing that I try to let live and grow into whatever it's going to be. And I will say too that I've had passion projects that have been really successful, and some that I started out lasted for a couple months and didn't really go in the direction I wanted. So I
Mm-hmm.
really didn't view that as a failure, but it's not something that I show all the time or I talk about all the time. But I
Yeah.
think it was a great opportunity to express what I wanted to express, to connect with topics that I'm interested in, and be passionate about something, but not put those pressures on of this needs to be profitable, this needs to be
Mm-hmm.
part of my business, this needs to pay for itself, or I can't dedicate the time to it.
Got it. And in addition to that, too, Chelsea, I feel like a lot of the creatives who are either working at an agency or have their, like their 9 to 5 job, sometimes they are looking to build a passion project just to kind of keep their creativity going, right? They need something to fuel their creativity so that they can still feel excited about the work that they do. So I also feel like a lot of the time I see other designers using the passion project just to kind of like things that they want to harness more, the skills that they are actually trying to um, develop so that they at least have an additional skill set in their own work, but also potentially they can turn that passion project into a side hustle where they can also get paid for like either freelancing on the side or maybe like curating something for like an office, well, not an office, like an after hour gig after work, right? So in terms of like the side hustle itself though, at what point do you feel that some of the passion project can turn into a side hustle?
For me, they turn
Mhm.
into a side hustle more when they start requiring more effort that's outside of just the creating. So anytime you create something like a passion project, I feel like you need to allot some time to actually sharing it, because if you're just doing it for yourself and no one sees it, it's not going to benefit you.
Mhm.
But one of the best examples that I have of myself is I worked on what started out as a passion project called Unpolished Press.
Yeah.
It's a different line of products that I have that were really developed because a lot of people would ask me for specific requests that didn't fit into my current business and my current brand. So I created a separate brand for it. And I feel like it was a passion project when I didn't share it too much and it had a lot of fun energy going into it. But then when I had to create an Etsy shop because people were asking to buy things from
Mhm.
it and that kind of part of it was added, that's when it became more of a side hustle for me. When there were more business tasks that were associated with it than just the fun part. The fun part for me is creating. So that initial creation and maybe even sharing it initially is the really exciting passion filled part. But
Mhm.
once I have to start setting up a website for it and an Etsy page and fulfilling orders and the list goes on and on. But once those tasks get added in, for me, that's when it starts feeling like a side hustle where outside of my regular work, I gotta not only make this content, but I need to figure out how to translate it into products and get them
Yeah.
sourced and printed and sell them. So I think that's where I kind of see a divide. And that was one of the best examples because it really started out with no pressure. People might like this just on social media and it's a fun way to engage
Mhm.
with people. And then it really grew into kind of a regular business in a way, even though it's much smaller than my actual business. It's just
Yeah.
another source of income that's kind of my side hustle fun gig that I do.
That's super cool. And I feel like I also felt the same way when I started part of the things that I did in the past, like the passion project where I did in the past, because when you start seeing like, okay, people actually get you to, I mean, like they have a demand in terms of like, can we have some of these as well? Like what you said earlier, like turning some of those passion project and you kind of need an Etsy shop and to create those so that people can actually order either like the cards or the products that you are promoting. It definitely has turned into like a side hustle that you have to maintain and then utilize whether or not you want to move from the side hustle into like incorporating it into your business, right? So I feel like there's like phases from the passion project and then going up level to a side hustle. And then from that going up again for like the actual business profit. In terms of like talking about the business and some of the passion projects that you have done in the past, how have those passion projects benefited your creativity and your own business, Chelsea?
I think the biggest way they've benefited my business was just getting me the clients that I can see eye to eye with and really
Mhm.
value the skill sets that I create. But
Yeah.
it also just keeps me creative in general because if I get stuck on a client project or I get stuck on even another passion project or something I'm working on, I
Mhm.
always have something that I can fall back on that's fun to get me out of whatever creative rut that I'm in. So if I'm stuck on something and can't come up with a solution, I always have a to-do list that's kind of on the back burner of these passion projects that I think are really fun. And sometimes I use them as a reward. If I get done with a really challenging project, I let myself have some hours to work on that. Sometimes in the morning or any time of the day where I'm really stuck on something I'm working on, I stop working on that and I just open up whatever passion project I have going on, and I work on that for a couple hours to get back into the creative flow and get excited about, this is why we're all designers and we enjoy doing this, and making sure I keep that in the forefront, because I think if you get stuck on a project and you don't have anything fun and you get in this downward spiral of thinking about, this job isn't that much fun because I can't feel creative right now and I'm completely creatively blocked and I don't have anything fun to work on, that's really damaging, especially as an entrepreneur, because you have to be consistently working, you have to be self-disciplined, all these different things. So having these projects to not only fall back on, but just integrate into your creative life and schedule, I think can be really, really valuable for keeping the creative momentum going and keep growing versus feeling stopped at different points. Because I think we all experience moments where the creativity isn't coming, but if we set ourselves up for success by having these projects that we get really excited about and we're reminded this is why we're doing what we're doing, they'll help get us through the bigger roadblocks that some of the client work has or some of whatever else we're working on kind of throws our way.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes you'll be amazed in terms of like how having a passion project can really fuel up that creativity, right? Because then you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can totally use X, Y, and Z approach or X, Y, and Z concept and maybe alter it differently into the next project that I'm actually going to create for X, Y, and Z client. So I feel like when you really dive into the fun part in a passion project, some of those like experiences or like the creating part of the passion project, you'll be amazed how you can actually carry that over into your day-to-day job or like day-to-day activities with your clients on another project. So that's what I'm hearing you say. And in terms of like, for other women out there who are listening and watching our show today, what would be like a couple of maybe key takeaways, or how can they really get started if they really want to create a passion project?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And really where I would recommend starting is figuring out, what are you just generally passionate about? Is it some food that you really like? Is there an organization that would be your dream job? Or is there a cause that's really near and dear to your heart? Those are great places to start, just figuring out like, what is your dream project that you would love for somebody to hire you to do, and what's stopping you from doing a version of it on your own, whether that's designing posters for concerts or t-shirts or logos or whatever it is. If there's something that you want to do, one, nobody's going to know that you want to do it unless you actually show them. And I think that's very true in design, but also making sure that whatever it is that you're creating for yourself, that you're going to say, this is going to be my fun, exciting passion project, you need to be really passionate about. So it's, for me, it's just figuring out what's really exciting right now. And it could be simple and it can start really small, or it can be a really ambitious project, but just figuring out, how do you put these pieces together of how much time you have to commit to it, what you're excited about, and how you can create it so that it does benefit you creatively and that it doesn't seem overwhelming, but seems really fun.
Yeah, totally agree with all of those that you just mentioned. So basically, it really is like, if it's a passion project, pick something that you're really passionate about. And then obviously think about what is the goal of this, right? Is the intention to really just get more followers to follow your work? Or is it just like for you to have that creativity outlet to just kind of gather like more creative I guess insights and inspiration for yourself? Like, what are those goals? And Chelsea, you also mentioned like about the time in terms of like how much work or efforts you really want to put into it, because those can be very important for you to figure out in terms of like delegating some of the hours that you have throughout the week, and then how do you want to set the boundaries between your own day-to-day job or like with your own maybe business aside from having this passion project added into your own schedule. So I feel like there's a lot of different ways or things that you need to figure out at first, but I feel like those three items, your passion, right, and then the time that you needed, as well as the goal of what you really want this passion project to be. I think that would really help you get started. Wouldn't you agree, Chelsea?
Yeah, definitely. And just making sure that there's not too much pressure on it, but it's
Mhm.
fun. So keeping that fun element, however you incorporate that, is key to letting it be helpful for you.
Awesome. Chelsea, thank you so much. I feel like we have learned a little bit more about passion project and then how we can really set it apart from an actual side hustle, because I feel like some people have that idea, kind of the same thing, right? They say that passion project is my side hustle. In fact, it's actually slightly different. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of chat a little bit more around that and chat a little bit about your own experience with passion project. Is there anything else that you would want to share, Chelsea, before we kind of conclude our interview?
I guess I would just say that working on passion projects is an investment in yourself. So sometimes it can be stressful to dedicate the time or think about having to not take on a project that might not be a good fit, but has some money attached to it. But I really think it's important that any designer does see a passion project as an investment in their own brand, in their own design skill set and career. And that does have a value. And yes, it is hard to justify the exact cost or figure out all of those details, but it's a really necessary investment in yourself as a designer and helping you become a stronger designer, a more confident designer, and just staying true to your own skills and enjoying your career.
Fantastic. Chelsea, thank you so much. Well, everyone, that is all for our interview with Chelsie Tamms today. Please subscribe to our channel to watch more Women in Design Spotlight videos. Also, make sure to connect with both myself and Chelsea online. We'll make sure to include the links on the description, and we hope you have a wonderful day. We'll chat with you more on the next interview. Bye.